parents in prison. And looking ahead to next weekend's royal wedding. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, Sue and Edgar Wackenheim III, Dr. P. Roy Vagelos and Diana T. Vagelos, the JPB Foundation, the Anderson Family Fund, Rosalind P. Walter, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. From the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center in New York, Hari Srinivasan.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. President Trump's decision to withdraw from the nuclear agreement with Iran continues to divide the U.S. from the other countries in the deal. Today, in a series of TV appearances, National Security Advisor John Bolton suggested European nations may change their positions or face economic consequences.
But I think the Europeans will see that it's in their interest ultimately to come along with.
Echoing the president's recent remarks, Bolton said it's possible that the U.S. will impose sanctions on European countries that conduct business with Iran.
Europeans are going to face the effect of U.S. sanctions, already are really, because much of what they'd like to sell to Iran involves U.S. technology for which the licenses will not be available.
In Tehran, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani repeated his promise to abide by the agreement if the remaining countries, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, and China, guarantee Iran will be protected from sanctions.
If the 5 remaining countries in the deal accompany us and fulfill their commitments and guarantee the Iranian side that the Islamic Republic's interests from the deal will be preserved, this agreement will remain in place, despite the will of America and the Zionist regime.
Iran continued to seek more support today, sending its foreign minister to Beijing for meetings on the nuclear deal. The United States will officially move its embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem tomorrow. President Trump made the controversial decision to relocate the embassy last December, pleasing Israel's government, but causing ongoing violent protests by Palestinians. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the official U.S. delegation today, led by the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, his daughter Ivanka, and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Israel captured East Jerusalem in the 1967 Six-Day War and claims the city is unified. Palestinians want East Jerusalem to be the capital of their future state. Protests are planned throughout the region tomorrow, including what may be the largest demonstration yet at Israel's border with Gaza. Joining us now via Skype from Gaza is NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Jane Ferguson. Let's put this embassy move in a little bit of context here. Gaza's been in the news week after week because of protests there.
It has. These protests have been going on for 6 weeks now, with Gazans basically marching on the fence or the border around Gaza, saying that they're marching in a march for the right of return to their ancestral homes that they fled whenever Israel was formed in 1948. That's been going on for 6 weeks, and we've seen a lot of bloodshed, dozens killed by live fire by Israeli Defense Forces soldiers stationed on that border fence itself. Now, of course, these marches are going to culminate on Tuesday. They'll also be marching tomorrow, and it's expected to be more of the same, but even bigger at this stage, and it could be bloody and violent. But in the meantime, in Jerusalem, the atmosphere is tense, but it's also triumphant. For the Israelis to get the U.S. president to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel publicly and so officially is a big coup for them. And you'll see across Jerusalem city, there are many posters and banners saying Trump is a friend of Zion. Trump is a great friend of Israel. And so there is certainly a celebratory feel up there, but it's a very complicated time and a very tense time in other areas.
Is there a peace process that this move disrupts?
there really isn't any functioning peace process or even hopeful peace process at the moment. We saw John Kerry, then Secretary of State, try to revive that in 2013. That was not successful. And since then, since we've seen the Trump administration come in, relationships with the Palestinians have gone much, much further south. We've seen, of course, this move of the embassy has been responded to by the Palestinians with complete condemnation. The Palestinians have said that they now view the U.S. as no longer an honest broker on any peace talks in the future. So it's not clear if there would ever really be any possibility of a peace plan, despite what the Trump administration says they are trying to come up with, some deal in the Middle East. So there's certainly been a huge amount of polarization.
Let's also talk about some of the events in the region that have ratcheted up tensions recently. Israel has been making airstrikes into Syria, into what it says are Iranian positions in the country. And then you've got the U.S. withdrawal from the Iran deal.
That's right. For the Israelis, a much bigger security threat to them, as far as they're concerned right now, is Iran. Just 5 days ago, we saw the President Trump pulling out of the Iran deal, and only a day later, the Israelis said that Iranians fired 20 rockets into Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. They then responded with widespread airstrikes, the kind of aerial campaign that hasn't been seen here in many years, in Syria on Iranian targets. Now, that was really only the latest event in what has been an ongoing tit-for-tat between Iran and the Israelis. For the Israelis, that Iranian presence on their border is a growing concern.
All right, NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Jane Ferguson joining us via Skype. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The United States incarcerates more people per capita than any other country in the world. But what about the children that offenders leave behind when they enter prison? For them, the experience can lead to instability and profound emotional consequences. In part 2 of our report from Indiana about incarcerated parents and their children, NewsHour Weekend's Megan Thompson profiles a family that's trying to cope and how their community is trying to help. This story is part of our ongoing series about poverty and opportunity in America, Chasing the Dream.
Every other Tuesday evening in Kokomo, Indiana, a group of kids gathers for activities at a local church's rec center. There's basketball, arts and crafts, and games. It's a chance for the kids to socialize and blow off some steam. But this isn't any ordinary youth group.
You been feeling okay?
These kids share a common and difficult experience. They each have a parent in prison.
Let's go. Play ball.
Rick Wilson has run the New Leaf Mentoring Program since it started 8 years ago.
We have had several of the kids in the program over half their life, and I've been a part of their lives for over half their life. It's like a big family.
10-year-old Devin Rush has been in the program for 6 years. His mentor is Josh Roller, a local college student. Devin's sister Natalia is in the program too.
Right, you ready, Freddie? Not yet.
Their father is in prison, serving a 30-year sentence for dealing cocaine. Their mother, Jennifer, has also been to prison 3 times, also for selling cocaine and violating probation.
My kids suffered big time. Big time, these babies suffered.
Jennifer got home from her last stint in prison in 2015. Now she's pursuing degrees in electrical engineering and business.
I made a lot of mistakes. Like, I go to school full time. I'm really working on these degrees.
And she swears she's changed for good. But the experiences her kids have been through are still difficult for them to talk about.
What do you miss?
I miss Daddy. We can play every day.
Do you guys remember when Mommy wasn't here?
Mm-hmm. It's not fun. I love her so much, I just don't want her to leave again.
What was the hardest part about when she was gone?
He didn't have a mommy. My brother was the one who mostly took care of me.
Devin and Natalia are among the 177,000 children in Indiana who've had a parent imprisoned at some point during their lives. That's 11% of the kids in the state, one of the highest rates in the country. Experts say it can be explained in part by the state's higher than average rate of incarceration.
We often think of these children who are left behind as invisible children.
Angela Tomlin is a psychologist and expert in childhood development at the Indiana University School of Medicine. There are more than 5 million American kids who've had a parent incarcerated, and Tomlin says their needs are often forgotten.
We focus on the person who is incarcerated. We focus on how we're going to move them along in the correction system. We spend millions and millions of dollars doing that, and I feel that we do not attend to the overall effect on the family and in particular on children.
Tomlin says those effects can be profound.
Losing a parent has the potential to be a traumatic experience, and the child can have behavioral reactions and developmental concerns.
This one's not turning blue. Okay, it's turning purple, honey.
One or both of Devin and Natalia's parents have been locked up for almost their entire lives. During it all, Devin and Natalia lived in several different places, first with Jennifer's mother, Michelle.
My mom, she has Parkinson's, and she was taking care of them, and it got so bad, her Parkinson's did. It just got too much for her.
So a prison ministry found them a family to live with in southern Indiana, far from the familiar surroundings of Kokomo. At one point, the kid's father got out of prison for about 7 months, so they lived with him. But he was caught with drugs again. The kids also lived temporarily with a teacher from school. And then, last year, Devin was hospitalized for blood clots in his brain. Jennifer believes it's all had lasting effects.
He has abandonment issues really bad, and then he's had a lot of depression. He used to grin ear to ear, and then it's just like he got really sad. And you see him sometimes, he just spaces out sometimes, and you just see he's just really sad and depressed. And I hate to see that because it kills me.
Rush says Devin has ADHD and a speech impediment and was held back a grade in school. Natalia was also held back at school because of her maturity level.
She shaved both sides of her head. She thrives for that attention, just trying to like, hey, here I am. And I think that has a lot to do with what me and her father have put them through.
Rush says Natalia once asked to name the family dog Poppy, as in Daddy.
She said, can we name him Poppy? Because I just want a daddy who will play with me and be there for me. And it just broke my heart. And so I've been trying to play mommy and daddy, but I can't.
The Rush family story isn't all that uncommon in this manufacturing city of about 60,000. But you wouldn't necessarily know it. Kokomo's doing well. The unemployment rate is lower than the national average, thanks in part to a huge Chrysler plant.
It's a good place to live.
Chuck McCoskey is a lifelong resident of Kokomo. He's a drug addiction counselor and former probation officer who's seen firsthand how incarceration affects families here. He says at the same time the city's economy is thriving, so are drug crimes.
Drastic increases in terms of the substance abuse, drug trafficking, drug changing, to new designer drugs.
Last year, the Kokomo area had 44 overdose deaths, almost double the number during the previous year. The number of people put in jail has increased 18% over the last 2 years. Local law enforcement say almost everyone they arrest has issues with drugs.
And when they're arrested and taken to jail, DCS, Department of Child Services, comes in and takes over the children and try to find homes for them, whether it's with their relatives or they have to find foster homes. So you got a lot of displaced children, and it's horrific. It just destroys the family. I don't want to sound like Kokomo's the only place, but if you follow the news, it's everywhere. Yeah. It's happening everywhere.
Are we up for a game?
Local children's advocates say the demand for their services is huge.
We could have a tremendously large program if we had more volunteers.
The Tuesday evening hangouts that Rick Wilson organizes give children like Devin and Natalia Rush a chance to hang out with other kids who have similar stories, something they don't otherwise get a chance to do.
They go to a Catholic school, and it's a wonderful school. Most of the parents, they're lawyers, doctors, police officers. They don't have mom, dad's a drug dealer or mom, dad's this,
Here you go, Devin. Here, I'll help you out.
And Wilson says the mentors here provide these kids stability.
Well, the role primarily is someone that they can talk to, share their feelings. So whatever issues may or may not be going on with the child, the mentor is there to help.
A mentoring program or any program that allows a child to have an adult who they can see on a regular basis, who can give them some time to share what their experiences have been and who can really be experienced by that child as reliable and consistent and a person to be counted on, can build up strength in a child.
Because you know you're pretty good at tic-tac-toe.
I am.
Devin's become extremely close to his mentor, Josh Roller, who's worked at a local grocery store to help pay his way through school. Devin's grandma used to take him there to see Josh working.
Josh, he works, he goes to school. That shows so much, and that is being the influence that he needs.
I want to put a circle right there.
Okay.
Josh is like his big brother and best friend. And it's nice that at least my son has something stable in his life.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Josh and Devin hang out once or twice a week.
It took a while for me to kind of get him to open up to me, but as he got to know who I am and he got comfortable around me, he opened up and was able to just share whatever he was feeling, and the car rides got a little louder.
I've been working on a book report while this week.
Would it make you feel better if I told you I had to do homework on spring break too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalia's mentor, Gabby Van Alstyne, is an assistant professor at the nearby business school. Gabby takes Natalia at least once a week to do something special, go to the mall, get their nails done, or get something to eat.
She's a strong, independent woman. She travels. She has a wonderful job. She has a job that she loves.
Open now, open now, open.
Natalia, she can be an independent woman like Gabby is, you know?
Sometimes I take her with me on errands, just really to spend time with her and help her and encourage her.
That's beautiful, Natalia. I think you've got a future as a fashion designer. What do you think? Then you could live in New York or somewhere big.
I don't want them to go down the life I went down. I don't want them to choose what I chose. At least they can see that I'm trying my best to change and I really want to do something, but they can also see the other side, that you can do stuff without getting in trouble, and these wonderful people are here to help.
Hear one mother describe the challenges of raising her son while in prison. Visit pbs.org/newshour. Next weekend, the United Kingdom and the world will witness a royal wedding, the marriage of Prince Harry to American actress Meghan Markle. As England again contemplates the future of the royal family, it's the late Princess Diana who is still on the minds of many. NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Malcolm Brabant reports.
At Buckingham Palace, this young couple are tapping into the air of romance, undoubtedly sweeping Britain, as Prince Harry prepares to marry American actress Meghan Markle. Constitutionally, this wedding has no significance, as Harry is now sixth in line to the throne, after the birth of 3 children to his brother William and his wife Kate. But royal commentators see the ceremony at Windsor as a reaffirmation of Britain's abiding commitment to the institution of monarchy.
I think if you look at William and Harry, I think you can't overestimate the strength of the link that people feel they have to them because of their mother, because of Diana.
Peter Hunt spent many years covering the royals for the BBC and understands why Harry is the most popular member of the family after the Queen.
I think there is a searing moment in the sort of British psyche with the funeral of Diana when we witnessed those 2 then young boys, 14 and 12, walking behind their mother's coffin, and those words, or that word on the wreath on top of the coffin, Mummy, written by Harry. I think that is deep within people's psyche.
The polling firm YouGov has occasionally tested public opinion to determine whether Britain's loyalty to royalty is a myth or not, and political director Tanya Abraham says the numbers are consistently strong.
Around 7 in 10 have a positive opinion of Princes William and Harry and also Kate. What we can see from this is that the impact of the younger royals is having some kind of resonance with the public, and this can be seen through their charitable work, the way they're with the public when they're interacting.
But those numbers tell a different story to historian Anna Whitelock, who suspects the tide may be about to turn.
This is an institution that is essentially anachronistic. It belongs to a bygone age, and at a time when the big institutions are being questioned, but we've seen to promote merit over, privilege and birth, the monarchy seems to be very much at odds with that. But I think out of an enduring kind of respect and reverence for the Queen, those big debates are yet to be had.
There's no doubt that Meghan Markle has sprinkled some star-spangled glamour on the ancient royal house. But the courtiers and advisors who are trying to make sure that the monarchy remains relevant in an ever-changing world are hoping that the glister of Hollywood matures into something more substantial. Harry and Meghan's marital home will be a sumptuous 21-room apartment in Kensington Palace, where Princess Diana once lived. And this is Richard Kay, who was Diana's confidant before her death in Paris in 1997. He thinks Meghan's entry to the royal family is a positive development.
I think it'll be a good thing, provided they've worked it out and she can adjust and live by the rules of monarchy. I mean, Harry's mother was not an American, but she couldn't cope with the pressures of being a princess, and the marriage didn't last. We all hope that this one works out.
But in Brixton, South London, residents are more consumed by what's known as the Windrush scandal, a political storm that has made many people of colour concerned that immigrants are no longer welcome. The Windrush was a ship that brought West Indians from the Caribbean to London in 1948. But some people whose parents arrived on the ship have been deported as illegal immigrants because their documentation was destroyed.
There's a photo of him.
Aisha Nelson feels totally alienated. The scandal has affected her personally.
The monarchy, the wedding, lovely. It's nice for him, but right now there's a lot going on out here apart from this wedding, which is I would like to get married, but they removed my partner 2 years ago, and I've been left with 4 children to take care of, lost my job. He hasn't met his last child, which is now 1.5, and everybody wants you to think about this wedding when our lives are being crushed. It's disgusting.
Such hostility is not shared by Trevor Watson, who works in a government ministry handling welfare benefits and pensions.
I'm in favour of the monarchy. I'm not a royalist, but I'm in favour of the monarchy. It works. I'm a socialist by nature. I'd like to see things more equalled out.
Enjoying the spring sunshine not far from Buckingham Palace, Tom Irving takes a slightly different view.
I believe that the monarchy can provide a unifying force that transcends religion, race, gender, etc. throughout British society. However, at the same time, I believe it should only act as a figurehead and nothing more. Political influence and financial gain from the British people are things that are completely outdated.
It is inevitable that one day, in the not-too-distant future, the standard flying over Buckingham Palace will be lowered to half staff for Queen Elizabeth II, who is 92 years old.
In an age of modern media, social movements can get ahead of steam very, very quickly. And I can imagine that, there can be a kind of push on social media that suddenly says, do we want Charles to be crowned? I mean, we see how these social movements move. And that's why I think, we just don't know what's going to happen in 5, 10, 15 years when the Queen is no longer with us.
This is PBS NewsHour Weekend, Sunday.
In Indonesia, 6 members of the same family, parents and children, carried out coordinated suicide bombings at 3 different churches during Sunday services today. The attacks in Surabaya, the country's second-largest city, killed 7 and wounded more than 40. It was the deadliest terrorist attack in that country since 2009. Authorities say the 3 attacks happened within minutes of each other. The father drove a car filled with bombs into one church. The mother and her 2 daughters, aged 9 and 12, had bombs strapped on them and blew themselves up at another church. The family's 2 teenage sons carried and detonated explosives on a motorcycle that they drove into a 3rd church. Police say that the father was the head of an Indonesian militant cell affiliated with the Islamic State, which has claimed responsibility for the attack. ISIS is claiming responsibility for the knife attack in central Paris last night that killed 1 man and injured 4 others. Police shot and killed the suspect, 20-year-old Khamzat Azimov. Azimov was a naturalized French citizen born in Chechnya. Witnesses told police he shouted "God is great" in Arabic during the attack. French officials say Azimov was on a watch list of people who may be a threat to national security. More than 240 people have died in terrorist attacks in France since January 2015, and the country remains on high alert. A new fissure opened on the slopes of the Kilauea volcano today. Officials have ordered additional evacuations. More than 1,700 residents had already voluntarily left their homes in the nearby Leilani Estates. And the Big Island's Volcanoes National Park is closed. More earthquakes shook the area, and scientists are warning that there may be explosions and additional lava flows. So far, there are no reported deaths or injuries from the Kilauea eruptions. Tomorrow on the NewsHour, the view from Jerusalem on the day the United States officially opens a new embassy there. That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. I'm Hari Srinivasan. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, Dr. P. Roy Vagelos and Diana T. Vagelos, the JPB Foundation, the Anderson Family Fund, Rosalind P. Walter, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized, individual, and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Be more. PBS.